Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
Hey y'all, this is Chelsea Deanne from Station 59, and you are listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Natasha. She is the host of Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. Lovely lady, love her to death. Became pretty tight with her a few months back now, and we finally were able to sit down for an episode on here, and she has some interesting stories, and she has more. So she's going to be back for another episode at some point soon. But she has an encounter with this like ridiculous shadow figure of or shadow something. I would say shadow demon. Technically, that's what I would categorize it as. Um, but it's terrifying. And yeah, so um, she's also a psychic medium, I would say, at this. I mean, she can see apparitions. I mean, she explains that she can tell when somebody's pregnant, and she can tell when they're gonna lose the baby and stuff like that. She can tell what the gender is gonna be and all that. It's super interesting. So I think you're gonna enjoy this episode. It's pretty wild. Natasha is a phenomenal person. Um, so if you're into this podcast, you're gonna like hers. She brings guests on. They cover certain topics and stuff, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I listen to her podcast, so which is crazy. All the podcasts that I fucking listen to these days, but you know, it's great too at the same time to connect with these people that you listen to. I mean, you kind of like form like because you get to know people when you listen to them on a weekly basis. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. She's dope as fuck, so definitely check her out. But if you're interested in flavoring up your food that you cook at home, I highly recommend Bigfoot's Breath by Flavors of the Forest. You can get it at flavorsforest.com. They also have ginger, and they have a spicy garlic too. So it's raw garlic dust, it's raw ginger dust. They freeze dry it. It's very potent powder. It's a lot better than, the store brand shit that you get. So I highly recommend it. So again, that's flavorsforest.com. You can follow them on Instagram, flavors forest. So yeah, go check them out. Tell them I sent you. Get yourself a bottle or 20. Yeah, and put it on your pizza, put it in your pizza dough, put it in your garlic bread. Like this shit is the shit. So also, if you love hot sauce, if you love spicy, the hot sauce is on the website. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Um, if you, oh yeah. So June 28th, I believe, which is a Saturday, Camden, Ohio, Monster Fest 2. I will be there. I'm not vending or speaking or doing anything spectacular. I'm just going to be present. So I'm going to be checking out the speakers. I'm going to be checking out the vendors, probably mingling. Definitely going to hang out with Jenny and Oren. They're pretty much like my best friends at this point. So if you're in Canton, Ohio area and you're interested in attending this convention, I believe the tickets are like $25. It's at the DoubleTree by Hilton, right in downtown Canton. So, if you're there, maybe we'll run into each other. But if you're not there, then we won't run into each other. So, anywho, if you like today's show or any of my other episodes, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate that. You can leave a rating and review on the website. Again, that's where the weird ones are podcast.com. That's where you can also get the hot sauce. That's where you can get to the merch store and you can get to the blog, which actually the blog, I am now currently writing a story. Dropping chapters every Sunday. So if you're interested in that, so the story follows a young man just surviving a zombie apocalypse. So if that piques your interest, check it out. It drops every Sunday for free. And maybe after I'm done writing it, after I drop all the chapters, maybe I'll combine it and actually make a book and maybe sell that. But for now, you can get it on the website. So that's something that I'm doing to kind of break the dust off of writing and get back in the saddle. Because I've always wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid, and that's my dream. The podcasting thing was never really a dream, but it helps. So, yeah. So check out Natasha as well. I would greatly appreciate that. I'm sure she would as well. Leave her a rating and review. That'd be great as well. But other than that, this is a long episode, so why don't we get into Natasha's phenomenal stories and encounters, shall we?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird, get weird.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. I have Natasha from Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracies. We're going to talk about some of her experiences. I already know some of them anyway. That she's told me. I've been on her show twice, I think, right? Twice?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
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 The first one's
actually.
a two-parter, though. The first one's a two-parter.
You know what? I just went through my files and I don't know where the second one went.
Ruh-rohs.
Ruh-rohs
spaghettios.
I just posted part 2. And then the next one I have is with Frankie.
Huh. Well,
So,
maybe the part 2 was it.
I don't know.
I don't know. Shit.
Well, because we recorded 2 episodes. Shit, I don't know. What was the second one about?
I know, we recorded 2 different times. Well, we recorded twice in the same day, just different times. We did it once in the morning, and then we did it again later on.
We did a week ago.
Yeah.
And that was a 2-parter. What was the other topic we did?
We did my experiences.
Yeah, that's what I thought we did. You know what?
Yeah.
I might have put them all together. I don't know.
You might have.
Go listen to
It's
part 2 and
possible.
find out. Let me know.
I will have to go listen to part 2 and find out.
Oh shit! I am horrible. Sorry. It's been a shit show since I lost my job. It's been a mess.
It's all right. It's all right. It's a kind of a shit show with me sometimes because I have a job. So like it's either one or the other. You know, either you don't have a job and everything falls to shit, or you do have a job and everything starts to fall to shit. Because sometimes when I stay at work too late, like I come home and I go straight to bed. Like I'll take a shower, eat something, and go straight to bed, and I don't do any editing.
I keep missing appointments because I can't keep track of what day it is.
I was afraid that you were gonna freaking forget that you were coming on tonight.
I set like 3 alarms to remind me that we were recording today so that I would not forget. And it took all 3 of them for me to be like, oh shit, I need to be there. But it was too, because it's just, at least when you have a job, you have a routine. You get up at the same time. You generally go to bed at the same time. You have a process. With me, I mean, I can't sleep. I'm up all hours of the night. I'm sleeping till like noon. Yeah. And the kids out of school, I'm trying to make these little things behind me. Plus, which now that I'm not I'm working for free, basically, I'm a lot more busy than I was whenever I had a fucking job. So whenever I had a job, it was get up, get ready, go to work all day, come home, get the kid, whatever, dinner, blah, blah, blah. And I had days set aside where I would work on things. Well, now it's 24/7, the kids out of school. I've got the animals, the laundry, the dishes, because instead of splitting things up, I'm now doing all of it because I'm home, plus searching for jobs, filling out resumes, applications, doing different interviews, keeping track. I think I actually missed an interview yesterday because I slept through it. And I had to call and be like, I am so sorry. I was like, I am calling now. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah.
Oh man, the joys of job hunting.
Yeah,
so
I'm
much
just
fun.
saying,
so
when people
fun.
make this bullshit about the 50s and they're like, oh, stay-home moms, you know what? Stay-home momming is fucking bullshit. I don't even have a toddler. When I had a toddler, it was even worse. But you know what I mean. Like I said, I'm more busy now that I'm not getting paid for my time. So
well, I mean, if your other half was making enough to where you didn't need a job, I'm sure you wouldn't mind though.
No, I've actually been in that situation, and it really was much better. But this whole I'm not working and we're now, I've got a stack of bills I can't pay. I've got to hope to God they don't turn my power off, and I don't know how we're buying food until tomorrow.
Oh no.
So we're being really creative with our food options because it's whatever we have in the cabinet that we're slopping together.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, tell everybody who the fuck you are, what it is you do, and fucking things that they can freaking buy off of you.
Yes. So I'm obviously, like you said, I'm Natasha. I cover all kinds of crap on my podcast. I mean, well, really, we kind of a free-for-all. So there's a lot of cryptids. There's a lot of, actually, I've had a few authors on there. We've covered alien abductions, anything fringe or Fortean that you can think of, I cover it. We even did one of my favorites, actually, no offense to anybody else out there, because I love you all. We did medieval torture devices. And
I listened to that one.
I love that episode, partially because I really threw her off when my questions at the end were, which one do you think you could handle? And if you could pick one to do to your worst enemy, which one would you pick? So that was a great discussion. I go places, I do paranormal investigations in places and cover both the facility and my encounters on the show as well. Sometimes I get with other people who have also investigated the same spot so that both of us get to kind of talk about our experiences and, the history of wherever we're going and stuff like that. I go to different conventions and conferences. I also, for everybody, I'll try to move it. I make these little guys up behind me. You can kind of see them. And so those are all on there. They're kind of everywhere. I'm trying to build up my arsenal here for my first actual vendor booth. which is going to be in September. So I'm super excited.
Woohoo.
But I make those. I design merch that's on there. I try to get creative and make merch based on episodes, but I also have things where every month I choose a charity, and you have options on my store to select the amount that you want to donate to the charity, and at the end of the month I just send that bulk amount that's set aside for it. And I actually made some charity themed designs this month, so I'm interested to see if anybody likes those. I think I've sold a couple. I really like them, so I tried to cover both. So there's a conspiracy one, there's a cryptid one, and there's a ghost one, all for the cancer awareness stuff. So that's on there. I stay busy all the time because I am a one-man show. Yeah, so all the research I do, pretty much anything that tickles my fancy, I cover it. And I'm kind of here, there, and everywhere. I like questions. I like people interacting. Even though I am one person, I always have guests on my show because I like to have that conversation. And as you will find out probably soon, in the next few minutes, I have some very interesting things that happen to me on a pretty frequent basis that are just very strange. I don't claim necessarily to be anything in particular, but there's been enough stuff that happens that I've got to at least acknowledge that something is weird. So I'm just a strange little duck. As I'm drinking my milk out of a straw.
You're drinking milk at this time of day? That was just you're like, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna go get some milk.
I actually typically go through a gallon of milk every couple days.
Damn, dog.
I love milk. I love milk. Well, I can't really drink alcohol, so I was a little under the weather.
Yeah.
And I also didn't eat all day, and I was on a live show, which was great. We had a blast. By the end of it, I was pre-toasted, and I was up puking all night. It felt awful the next day. So I don't know if it was me being sick or if it was alcohol induced. So just to play it safe, we're sticking with the milk.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, was this the live with Farah that you did on Monday?
Yep.
How'd that
my
go?
gosh. I wish you were there. It was so much fun. I was so looking forward to you being there and you weren't on it. I was like, dang it. Because we did like what our porno names would be.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, this is too precious. And I was like, oh, I hope he's there. And then I was like, but Stacy was there. Oh, she was fun. And she was smoking hot, dude. She had her hair all done. She had a little ascot on because it was 70s themed. So I went more Ted Bundy victim with the straight hair and the bangs, she parted. I went that route. But Stacy had like her hair up. It was like this Bride of Frankenstein thing. She was looking good. Just saying.
Well, I think her email is actually, I don't know if should say that. Well, anyways, it has something to do with Frankenstein's wife. Bride of Frankenstein is her email. So I found that out.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to read it like 3 times. I was like, wait a second. I was like, oh, no shit. All right. That makes sense.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I send stuff to like different people, and sometimes it's their personal accounts, sometimes it's their pod or business account. So I never really know who is what.
Yeah.
I can't remember anybody's name for the most part either. You're usually referred to as whatever your podcast name is or the topic we covered. And I'm like, I don't know, the guy, like the one guy, crap, what was his name? It wasn't Chris, because Chris was a girl. Eric. I think his name was Eric. He was an ambulance driver. And that's just how I remember him, as he was the ambulance guy. So.
That's hilarious.
I do that with everybody, though. It's not just it's literally everybody I meet. It's always like I worked at a job, and this one guy for the entire year, he probably told me his name like 30 times, but I couldn't. He was just khaki pants guy.
Khaki pants guy. Fucking Jake from State Farm.
Yep. He wore khaki pants every day.
Jesus Christ.
So he was khaki pants guy. So I don't know.
Well, hey, man, whatever you got to do to remember people, I guess, if you can't remember names.
The mind works in mysterious ways.
It sure fucking does. So, Natasha, if you don't mind, what was it that got you into starting a your own podcast? Like what, especially this field? Like what was the thought process and starting this journey?
So it's actually kind of, I feel like it's kind of boring. Well, I guess kind of. So weird stuff's happened to me my whole life. It's always been very strange. I've always been interested, and I've always been. I'm from a small town, so a very conservative. Think Footloose. I'm from like Footloose town. Okay, like only unfortunately, there's no Kevin Bacon around. But
Nobody's going out to angry dance.
correct. Well, correct. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But anyway, so I've always been kind of the oddball that, likes the spooky and the weird creatures and, aliens, and nobody talks about anything around here just because it's, all bad. It's oh this and oh that. And I was raised that a lot of the weird things that I encounter or I experience, basically I was told growing up that makes me a witch and I'm burning in hell because I'm, dancing with the devil. Even though I have no say in it and I don't have any control over it, they just are like, oh, well, if you do this, that, and the other, then basically you're going to rot in hell. Typical small town scare tactic.
Yeah.
Aside from, whatever, if you guys want to be diddling little boys, that's okay, but I can't talk about anything weird. But whatever. But then I, was really big into music and that kind of thing. But then I somehow, I don't even remember what started it, but someone was like, you should check out podcasts. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, I don't want to listen to people talk. It's going to be boring, blah, blah, blah. And then I started listening to different podcasts and I found one, which I shout them out all the time because I absolutely adore them. And it is the Cryptonaut podcast. So if you like creatures and aliens, they're amazing and they're hilarious. But I listen to them every day at work from start to finish. And I would just listen. And eventually I got to where they were so down to earth and very encouraging and they're just very personable. And I'm like, you know what? They seem like everyday guys, just shooting the shit. And I'm like, you know what? I think I could do that. I think it would be a good outlet. I like people. I clearly like to talk and I like weird stuff. I'm like, if people are willing to listen to them, maybe I can do it. So to be fair, really, those guys are what kind of ushered me into, I'm like, well, what's the worst that could happen? Right? So I gave it a shot. To be fair, I bought some cheap ass equipment and started off. And then actually one of my listeners donated some really nice equipment to me and it's been fantastic. Yeah. Like it's super fancy. Right. And then I was kind of like, okay, I'll go to an event and see what it's like. And I went to CryptidCon for the first time. And just the amount of people there and the community that they have, it was just so nice that for once in my life, when I went somewhere, it wasn't like, holy crap, look at this Baba black sheep. It was, I am in a herd of black sheep. They're everywhere. And no one made me feel uncomfortable or weird or anything. And everybody's so open and helpful. And I've never experienced that before. And I was like, I've got to keep doing this because I love it. I love to cover the topics and meet the people and have a good laugh. And it's just, a lot of times it's, like I said, I just tried it. And then the people that I've met along the way just kind of sealed the deal for me. So
that's like a pretty similar story to mine. I didn't fucking like podcasts either. And then I started listening to it, and then I found one that I really liked, and I was like, I could do this.
Yeah,
and
I'm like, oh, let's...
Yeah. And I was like, I could do this. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. Like, and it's like a lot of people start it because they think that it's going to become their job, you know what I mean? And like,
I would love to some point.
I mean, you mean, yes, at some point, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind at this point now, I wouldn't care. That's what I kind of like look forward to, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, But yeah, like when I started this podcast, I have had no intentions of even making money off of it.
Yeah.
So.
And it gets to the point where like, even when I'm really stressed. So again, we've had this whole thing. My father-in-law passed away. I have no job. It's been a lot of very negatives. And I very easily could have just been like, you know what? I'm just going to crawl in this hole and rot and whatever. I'm just going to be antisocial because I struggle a lot with mental health. But like Monday, I was like, I'm not missing it. I am going online. I don't care what just happened. I'm going to be at the round table. We're going to have a good time. And I needed that. It gets to the point now where recording time is like, it's like therapy for me. It just lets me kind of get it out and feel human because I don't really get out much now, like at all, ever. And so
Yeah.
this is my social interaction. And it's almost, like I said, just this nice, comforting therapy session for me. And it kind of gets my mind off of things. And it's just a good attribute. This is my social corner in my little studio here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is nice. It's nice to have interactions with somebody that's not, your kids or your husband or whatever,
Yeah.
people that you talk to all day, every day,
Yep. Well,
So,
you gotta think too. So, my husband works long hours all week. He only gets 1 or 2 days off, maybe a week. So he's gone all the time. He's gone before I get up. My kid, is at the age now where he just plays video games. I literally sit by myself 24/7 almost.
yeah,
There's only like an hour of the day where I actually have people around. And I'm a social person, believe it or not.
you are a social butterfly. That's for sure.
It's funny, people have two outlooks. They either think that I am a weird, creepy emo girl that doesn't like people, or I am too social. There's really no in between.
Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne. I am the host and creator of Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. The reason that I say that I want to keep you paranoid is because I'm one of those 80s kids that grew up watching Oprah, Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, and what did I learn from those shows? Never go to the second location, always trust your gut, and always stay paranoid. On Residue, I will tell you stories like the 1906 tragic love story of Grace Brown that inspired the classic Hollywood film A Place in the Sun. And speaking of Hollywood, I also tell true tales of cursed film sets. And I'm going to add in some stories about mean girls that are so scary even Regina George would run. But one thing always ties all of these stories together, and that is the loved ones that are left behind. Residue. Something that remains after the main part has been gone or taken. Join me on Residue, where I will tell you horrific true tales that will teach you to always keep one eye open. Stay paranoid.
I went from being extroverted to I started the podcast and I became an intro. I mean, I started as an introvert and then I started the podcast and now I'm an extrovert.
I don't think
So,
I've ever been an introvert in my entire. Actually, I'm more of
oh
an
man,
introvert now than I am. Like I don't go. Like I said, I don't get out much because it's always something comes up and it in my head it triggers something. I'm like, oh, did you know this or did you know that or have you heard? And then immediately people are like, whoop, like go, nope, like get your demon ass out of here. They're like doing this number and like spraying water at me. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, people that don't understand. And it's weird too. Ever since I started the podcast, I've had random like conversations and people would bring up the stuff that I talk about now. And
yes.
like it's a sign I feel like that I am doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think to me too is a lot of people that open up that won't typically they'll be like, oh, I heard your podcast and I have this story that I've never told anybody. And I'm like, I'm doing something beneficial. And it just makes me feel good to kind of, especially with my shop and how it gives me the opportunity to give back. Whereas if I was just myself, I can't do that. To be fair, I mean, as much as I would love to, even when I work, again, middle of nowhere, we don't make any money around here. Like you're pretty much a broke bitch all the time. And I don't have that opportunity, but now with the store, I can pick charities. And I mean, yeah, a little bit of it comes to me, but anything that is marked donation, I don't touch it at all. It goes directly in the pool to get donated. Like I don't touch it, which is why there's specific lines. But it's actually been, I think we raised almost $100 for the mental health institute that I was sending it to, NAMI. And then already this month, I think we've raised $50 for Stand Up to Cancer. So it's it's just good to feel like you can help and give back as opposed to just, doing the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I never thought of that. Going that route. Making like a thing for a charity. So that's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
amazing that you do that. And then it just goes to show your character in all of this. You know what I mean?
Everybody
Like,
needs help.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Like
most
you're
people need help.
struggling and you're still trying to help people, you know?
Yeah. Because I'm just like,
So,
here. Well, because I get it. Like I said, I struggle with mental health, and there was a
yeah.
time where I wasn't comfortable with getting help, and there wasn't much available to help me. And so now that I am a little bit, more stable now than I was, it's helpful to me because I'm like, I want other people to get that same help, because now I'm like, how did I even survive? To be fair, I really don't know how I made it through until I got help. Who knows?
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. But
Sorry,
I'm sorry, I just got distracted because it's saying that I'm not uploading at all.
So
Which is
I've
really
got
fucking
99%
weird.
uploading.
Yeah, you have 99% for you. I have 0. Can you see mine on your end?
I just have the one thing that just says 99% uploading, and it says recording.
That's fucking weird. I don't understand. My computer's been really freaking stupid lately. I
I could just send it to you, right?
Yeah, because I was just trying to get tomorrow's episode together so I could put it out, and it's not freaking working.
Have you
And
updated it recently?
It's pissing me off. Maybe I have to update it, which I'll have to do that after we're done here. Oh. Anyways. So, so let's get into some of your experiences. So, if you can recall, well, what do you remember being your like very first ever experience?
Well, so I have one experience that 100% sure is the first thing that was something catastrophic that happened. But I do remember, I guess if you go back further, when I was a kid, I always kind of could sense things, but I never really had a lot of experience with it. So, like, we lived in this old house. It was in this town, which is, and there was this one spot in the basement that I would never go to just because I was like, something is telling me to stay out of it. We lived there for, I think, 6 years, and none of us ever opened that door. It was in the basement. It was in the back in the corner. And we were just like, the very last day that we lived there, we got the balls to open the closet. And it was still the same creepy feeling, but we opened it. It wasn't anything horrible, I guess. There was like this huge like mound of like dirt with like a spare tire, like just the tire, not the rim, just the tire. And it was just really, it was very, I don't even like negative. It's just real heavy feeling. And I was like, nope. And after that, I never went back. And I really think there was something down there. I don't know whatever it was, but I can tell you, I'm pretty sure there was something down there because, sidebar, my little sister, is 6 years younger than me. And we moved into the house. And when she was learning to walk, she had, the little walkers, you put the baby in, it's got a little saucer with wheels and all that. You know the drill. And we never had to worry about her going, obviously, up the stairs because she was not even really walking on her own. We put her in there so that she could move around because there was 3 other kids. And so she would get pissed off and cry all the time if she couldn't follow us around. So my mom just plopped her in one of those to make her basically walk early. Well, our washer and dryer was in the basement. And my mom had a laundry bucket full of clothes to go downstairs to the laundry room. And she opened the door and she's like, I swear I closed the door. I swear I closed the door. But somehow my sister in her walker, she went in and it was somehow the door opened enough for her to get her walker in it. She went down the stairs. We're talking like 20 something steps onto a concrete slab. When she landed, she somehow got completely out of the walker, flew out and landed, but somehow got set down to where there wasn't even a scratch or a bruise on her. I mean, nothing. It's like something just plopped her out and just set her down nice and neat. The thing had scuff marks on it and all that, but she was totally fine.
What
and just,
the
yep,
fuck?
laying on the concrete floor. She was only like a year old, maybe. So I think something was down there. I just don't know what, but apparently it liked my sister. But my first big thing, of course, I think someone's mowing. Sorry if you can hear that.
Cannot.
Okay, good. I was probably 15, 16, and we lived in this old house that actually, so property-wise, you had a driveway. So there's 2 driveways to the house, and they made an oval. So you had the main road, 2 drives that, made an oval on the side. Well, the first drive, there was a house, which is the one I lived in. If you went to the back side where it curved around the oval, there was also a straight drive that just went back because my great-great-grandparents built a house and lived back there. Well, then my grandpa married my step-grandma, and, well, actually, he married my grandmother, who then died in my house, because they built the house closer to the road. So they lived right next to their parents, typical small town stuff. You go on the family property, you build a house, and you raise your family. That's just that's how we do down here in Indiana. And anyway, so the rickety old house ended up being condemned when they all passed away and nothing happened. And then my aunt and uncle lived in the house that I ended up living in. They built a nice, beautiful house. They demolished the old one, built the house, and then we moved into the old one. So that's the whole setup here. That's an aunt and uncle up here. We're down here. And there was a pond in between the 2 of us. So I was in my old house, and my mom needed, I don't know, it was like sugar or something. I don't even know. It was the middle of the night. I have no idea why the hell she needed it. It was probably some kind of, I don't know, family thing or something. And she just had to make it because Mom, with 4 kids, you did all your shit at night because you couldn't get anything done during the day. So I was like, I'm excited because my mom was going to let me drive the van, our little Mercury. And I was like, like, I'll do it. I was like, please let me go up there. She's like, okay, fine, here's the keys. And I, was hot shot driving the 200 yards to my aunt's house. And at the time, till I was rudely awakened. So I get in the van and I take driver's ed. So I'm doing even though I'm just going across the fucking pond, I was doing my due diligence. I'm checking my mirrors. I'm making sure I'm short. So I had to scoot the chair all the way up, do all of that stuff. And I put my hands on 10 and 2. And all of a sudden, it was like every single hair stood up. And I just felt, it's almost like for a second, like I just froze, like a deer in headlights for a second. And it was this horrible feeling of just, I guess oppressed would be the good feeling that I could get, like this dark, almost like a cold, empty feeling, and everything stood up. I got goosebumps everywhere, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see something in the passenger seat of this van, and I was by myself. So I, sat there, and I'm like, okay, everyone says, which I've done a lot, I've always done that. You see something in the corner of your eye, and I'm like, oh, a shadow, and then it disappears when you look. So I'm like, okay, that's probably all it is. It's fine. I was like, so of course, my dumbass, I look real slow, and I get all the way turned, and it doesn't leave. It is sitting in my passenger seat as if it was this big, almost like I don't want to say blob because it wasn't like gooey or anything. It was like a shadow, but it wasn't really humanoid. It was more. And the way I can explain it the best is for anybody who has not seen the movie Spirited Away, Google No Face from Spirited Away, and you'll see this black mask with this white mask on. That shape is exactly what was sitting in my thing if you just take its mask off, because I didn't have some Japanese mask thing in my car. It was just a black shadow. And what's weird, and it was so creepy because it was like the whole seat, and it looked like it had legs sitting down. It went all the way down into the floorboard. And it was, sorry, my cat's playing with the my thing over here. He's like, all of a sudden something was moving. I was like, what is that? And he's over at the bottom like this. So anyway, sorry. But it had this big black mask, but it was almost as if what this thing's waist, I guess, would have been, was turned and looking. I mean, it was looking right at me. There was no anything. And it had this arm. Oh, it still gives me willies. And it was stretched out over the dashboard. So it was like resting its hand on the dashboard and like turned almost like the whole time it was waiting for me to look at it. So it was just sitting there waiting for me. And so I'm looking at it. And like I said, it's all black. But what's weird is there's these big sockets, like where the eyes would be, that almost appeared to be an even darker black than black. I mean, I can't even, almost like a black hole. Like it was a lack of light or something, like a void, instead of it just being, oh, it's black. No, it was a void of some kind. And this hand that was stretched out, it was like a thin arm that went out, and it had this hand with these huge, long, pointy fingers. And the way I describe it to people that gives the most beneficial description is Jim Carrey's The Grinch. And he has those the big pointy fingers. All right. Yeah. So instead of them being fuzzy and green, they are black and sharp. Like just straight, no fuzz, no nothing, just straight sharp, like little black knives. And it's just resting up on the dashboard. And when I'm looking at it, it feels... at first I'm just kind of staring at it because I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? You know, because I don't know what this thing is. And after a couple minutes of just staring at it, it almost felt like it was like draining something from me, but I don't know if you would call it, but it was deep. Like it felt like it was reaching as far deep inside me as you could get and just pulling something, like it was siphoning something out of me, whether it be whatever you want to call it, energy, soul, whatever you call it. It felt like it was taking something from me. Like, and I eventually, I closed my eyes and I put my head down and I'm like, you can't be here. You have to leave. You can't be here. You have to, and I'm like talking to myself and I'm like, okay, you have to leave. You have to leave. And then I just real slow, like open, peek one eye and I look and it's gone. Right. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, that was weird, but I still got to go to my aunt's house. So I drive to my aunt's house, no problems. And on my way back, I'm on the straightaway right before it turns to go to my driveway. And the same shape came out from underneath, like the undercarriage of my van.
Oh my God.
Ugh, this is so gross the way I try to explain it the best I can. But it wasn't just out, like it was like scurrying would be a good word for it. And it had legs and arms, but like its hands were turned out and its elbows and its knees were bent up like a grasshopper or like a cricket.
Oh my God.
And it was like scurrying and it went all the way down the straight driveway. And at the very end of the driveway where it meets the main road, there was a very old, like a street lamp, but not like a pretty street lamp. This is like a ghetto ass farm street lamp, where, it takes a while for the mercury or whatever to like warm up like an old football field kind of thing. Yeah. So it scurries, and as it's scurrying, it's like glitching in and out, almost like The Ring, the girl from The Ring. Yeah, and it goes and it gets to the end and it doesn't even hesitate. It just goes and shoots up the light pole. And as it's going up the light pole, its elbows and stuff are pointed out. And its hands, not like it's grabbing the pole, but just like it's stuck like a gecko, right? And it scurries up the top. And when it hits the top, the light explodes. Just, and there's sparks everywhere. And the light goes out. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm just, I'm 15. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And so I pull into my house and I was like, well, maybe I was, maybe I was hallucinating. No, 2 days later, the county had to send somebody out to fix the light. It literally just exploded the light and they had to replace it. And that, but then after that, that was it. But poof, gone. And that was my first encounter of anything. And I'm pretty sure because, like I said, a bunch of weird stuff happens with me, so I can generally get a feel for, is there a person here? Is there a spirit here? What do they look like? Were they a man? Were they a woman? Were they a kid? I can usually pick up on this kind of thing. But whatever this thing was in my van, there was no human aspect to it. I mean, there was nothing. There was no emotion. It was just a black void, like a black hole that was just sucking stuff in. And that's all it was. And then it disappeared until like hold on, us 15. So about 15, 18 years later. And then it made another appearance.
Cheese and rice. All right. I want you to tell that part of the story. But real quick, how close is your cat to you right now?
Actually, he's not even in. Oh, he's laying down.
All right, because.
Oh, well, you can't see him. He's right there. There he is. Uh-oh, was stuff moving?
So, no, nothing was moving, but there was 3 distinct clicks while you were telling that story. And it's weird because I don't know if you know her, but Mora.
What?
Jessica Mora. She's no, all right. So she's one of the organizers for Encounter Quest in North Carolina. And I had her on, and she was telling, all of her experiences and stuff like that. And the entire episode, there was just this really loud clicking noise the entire time.
I just jumped on the table. Scared the shit out of me. Big kitty, it's closed. You can't get out. He's over here trying to.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on? What's going on, cat?"
Directly in front of me is the window that I open that they get in and out of. So I think he was trying to get out.
I got
but he didn't realize it was closed. Sorry.
Yeah, so that same clicking noise just started happening while you were telling your story, and I just thought that was interesting.
Well, it is interesting because on top of that, but right before, like the same week that it made its second appearance,
yeah,
I was getting ready, and my vanity in my bedroom is right up against my wall. So my house is brick, so it's just brick wall, and there was nothing in between. It's literally on the wall that goes outside, and there's no stairs, no porch, no nothing. There's not even a window. It's nothing over there. And I was getting ready, and it was like 3 knocks. It sounded like somebody was knocking on a door right next to me, and there's nothing there. It's literally just outside. And I even checked the security camera that points right out there and then shows everything. And there was nothing on the camera. I do have to watch it, though. I'm really kind of interested to see what happens because my power's gone out when I talk about it. I've gotten bloody noses talking about it. Weird stuff has happened. So we'll see how this goes. It doesn't like to be on camera, I don't think.
Cheese and rice. And rice. So you're talking about, you just talking about it or just or watching it?
Anything.
Really?
Yeah, so actually I recorded an episode with Sam and Tracy from the Suspended Sentence. You know them.
Yep.
They're in our group, and we recorded an episode, and I started talking about it in like the middle of a conversation. My nose just starts pouring blood everywhere. And we're recording video and audio and all that. And I'm like, oh, crap. And like, I'm trying to get it under control. And I apologize and switch topics, and then it immediately stops. I went back to get the video to post it, and the whole video is nothing but a black screen.
No shit.
Yeah, I even called them. I was like, hey, we recorded that. They're like, yeah, everything looks fine on our end. And I was like, well, it's all black now. Nothing. It just deleted everything. So that's that's like the one thing in the house that's not neutral or friendly.
So it's with you now.
Well, every now and then it's good now. Usually it makes me very nauseous. So I think we're okay at the moment. I'm just waiting for something bad to happen because it always happens. So hopefully it doesn't. That knocking is my husband. Don't pay attention.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think that this is? Do you think this is some kind of attachment?
Honestly, I don't have any idea. All I know is wherever it came from, it's not human in origin.
Right.
That's all I know. I know it is very negative. I think it just drains. I think it's something, and I don't know, it seems kind of demonic, I guess, but I feel like it shows up, it sucks the energy out of you or whatever, and then goes about its business. And what's weird is so finally, after a while, I was talking, and my mom had mentioned in the same house. Now, I don't get sleep paralysis or anything like that, but my mom in that same house we grew up in that I saw it in, she was saying that she went to bed and she woke up in the middle of the night with this big shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed, just like looming over her. And she said that she was, like paralyzed. She's like, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She's like, I couldn't do anything. I just panicked. And she's like super religious. So she was like, I was, talking to Jesus or whatever. And she said that the only word that she could get out of her mouth was the word Jesus. And she's like, as soon as I said that, it disappeared. And I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. I didn't try that theory. Maybe that's why it still hangs around. but then again, I don't know for sure. She just said it was a big shadowy figure. I don't know if it's the same, if it's different. Maybe it's maybe it's generational or hereditary or something, because I guess, so mom's side of the family, I also found, because again, they don't like to talk about it because it's, what's the word before? It's a no-no. It's a taboo,
Yeah, a lot of families are like that.
But mom's side of the family a ways back was pretty like witchy. Like they had some stuff that they could do and that they did do. And they don't like to talk about it, but I think out of everybody, like it's, if you look back at the generations, you always know there's one or two, usually the girls, that there's something different. There's something different with them. So like in my group, it's me, obviously. In my mom's group, it's kind of like very much so like one of my aunts, and I think a little bit of my mom. And like before that, it was their mom, and before that, it was her mom. And so it just kind of like, comes down. I don't know if maybe that there's a factor that attracts it, or it just so happened that we were all in the same area because, it was the same house.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
It's a mystery.
That is a mystery, but I don't want to talk about it anymore because I just saw a shadow in my studio. So. Oh
yeah, let's switch it. We don't want to stick him on Kevin. I like Kevin.
I like me too. I just like you were switching. You weren't really talking about it anymore, but you were talking about, you went and started going into your mom's experience or whatever, and I just saw it, like saw this shadow cross out of the corner of my eye, and I had to look, and I was like, what the fuck is that?
I mean, it seems pretty tall. I would, from what I remember, it was pretty tall. It wasn't like 11 feet, but I'd say it was probably 6-7 feet at least.
Oh, yeah.
And thin.
Because the shadow was like towards the ceiling, so.
Yep. It
was weird. And
I was talking to somebody one time.
Anyways.
And they're like, what did you say you saw again? And I was talking to them about it, and they were actually driving, and they said something peeked out from like behind the woods, like a wood line, and was like watch them drive by. And he goes, and then it was gone. And all I was doing was talking to him about it. And I was trying to explain it because he's like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I'm like, hold on. So I got in Canva and I found like a tree line, and I found like a thing, and like made what I kind of saw peeking out. I'm like, is this? He goes, that is exactly what I saw. So apparently I sent it to him. It came back though, so you're good. It'll come back. I think it's tethered. I don't think it's going anywhere.
I hope it's tethered. Well, to be honest with you, so I don't know if you've crossed paths with him or not, but Isaac from Hidden in the Shadows podcast.
Okay, I was going to mention this earlier, but now it's confirmation because you brought it up. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check real fast. So he actually reached out to me yesterday and was like, hey, my sister listens to your podcast and really, likes it. Would you want me on your show? I'm like, yeah, bring it on, dude. Like, let's do it. So I'm actually scheduling to have him on the show.
Nice. Yep. Isaac's a good dude. He, I'll let him tell you what he can do, but he basically, in the short story is he can remove dark entities through the interwebs. So like the way you and I are right now, if like whatever negative attachment or negative entity happens to be in your room and is in view, he can remove it from is it where only you are.
In view? What happens if it's like hiding?
As long as he can see it. If it's like even if it's hiding, but it's in the view of the camera, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not making its presence known, but it's just there.
It's there, yeah.
He can see it and remove it.
And what I think is weird is it's almost because, like I said, I saw it again.
Yeah.
And when I saw it again, it was really strange. I wasn't scared at all. Like I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. It was literally like you go to a class reunion and you see someone you haven't seen in a long time and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like that was the familiarity that I had with it while it was there. And I was just like, oh, hey, what's up? And then that was it. Well, I mean, it touched me and stuff, but that sounded really way worse than it was. Didn't touch me like that, but it touched my arm and I woke up. I was sleeping at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't feel threatened or anything. It was just like, oh, hey, buddy, what's up? Almost like we had an agreement that I wasn't aware of. It's like, oh, hey.
Oh, shit. You have a marriage license and you didn't know.
Yeah, right? Well, people do marry ghosts. I don't know about demons, though.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Get you a nice succubus going.
If they are real. Yeah, so it's yeah, no. I don't want that. I don't want that. No.
No. What if they're really hot?
I mean, that'd be cool, but then eventually I'll be like, it'd be fun in games in the beginning, and then I would
until you're a weeping husk of your old self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not a good thing. So, and people call for these things too, which is weird, but it seems, so I was just talking to Vicky Joy Anderson, and it seems like the succubus and incubus entities are kind of like have something to do with sleep paralysis, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've heard some, but I've seen a lot where it doesn't necessarily have sleep paralysis. It's just a spirit that shows up.
Right.
Unfortunately, this thing wasn't giving me the goods, so there was no enjoyable factor there. It would have been nice if you would have thrown a little something in. But...
It just crawled down your driveway and it broke your light freaking in a weird-ass fucking way. You want to know what that sounds like? That sounds like the spider crawl of Bigfoot. Have you ever heard of
I've never heard of Bigfoot
spider
doing
crawl?
Spider crawl?
Yeah, it's fucking really... So Wes... I might get his name wrong. Wes... German, I don't know. He has a podcast. I can't remember the frickin' name of it. But he saw a Bigfoot on the side of a mountain or a hill or something like that. And when he saw it, it noticed that he saw him or whatever, and then it just like crouched down and like crawled like a fucking spider.
Sure,
like
was a Bigfoot? That's where my question. So it was similar to Hellboy when they have the Baba Yaga, and it's all like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess in a way, like, but like the way you were like just describing yours with the elbows out or whatever, and its legs were out the same way.
It was like unnatural because it wasn't like just like it was out. I mean, they were like up, like a grasshopper.
Yeah, and so, and the thing is that he's not the only one that's seen a Bigfoot do that either. So it's
true. I'd be wondering if it was skirting along the edges of Skinwalker at that point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Or it's some other kind of shapeshifter.
Yeah, I mean, if a shapeshifter can shape into an animal, I don't see why it wouldn't be able to do a Bigfoot.
If it's Bigfoot is pretty ape/humanoid.
Yeah.
Their bones and ligaments can't physically allow them to bend that way.
As far as we know.
In theory.
But then again, we don't even know what Bigfoot is.
Yeah,
technically.
True. But I'm saying if it's a creature, I mean, the same rules apply for lions and bears and people and monkeys. And there's only so much. Oh my. But there's only so much that the physiology will allow you to do as far as mobility. So for it to be able to, kinetic its way out of that mess, then it's no longer a valid like being, creature, or anything like a physical. I feel like it'd be something totally different, like not from here.
Yeah,
to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's a part of me that thinks that Bigfoot isn't from here, to be honest with you. So.
Suckers.
Hey everyone, it's me, Stephanie, the hostess of the Macabre Family Podcast. Join me and my whole Macabre family every week as we tell you all the tales of spooky, kooky, creepy, freaky, hairy, you name it, we got it at the Macabre Family Podcast. Join us every week on all listening platforms. Stay spooky.
But anyways, going from that experience that I don't want to talk about anymore.
Yeah, moving on.
But what would be your next one that you can remember? Because I know you have some where you find out that you have psychic abilities. So
yes. So, I will tell you. I'll tell you. I have two creepy ones that are really short. For the same house, and then I'll move on to the weird brain thing. Okay, so
the weird brain thing. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I talk about. When weird things happen, I call it my brain. I don't know. It's the only thing I come up with is it's happening in my brain.
Yeah.
So I worked late at a fast food place here in town, and I got home. I lived at home, so did all my family members, and my little sister was probably maybe 10-ish at the time. And I'm coming in from work, and I open the door, and when I open the door, when you first walk in, there's a long ways couch facing to the right, and then right behind the couch is a hall that goes to the left, and all of our bedrooms were back there, and the bathroom. So just so you have a setup of where everything's at. And I open the door, and there's a girl, like a little girl about the same age as my sister, on the other side of the couch. And I didn't really look at her too close at first. I just noticed there was somebody there, and I was like, oh, hey. And about the time that I said hi, she took off down the hallway towards the bedrooms. And I'm like, well, that was weird. So my mom stayed up because, as every Southern mom does, stay home till the kids get home. And I walked around and I was like, hey, does, sister have a friend over? She's like, no. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, I would know if there was someone in my house, sassy Southern mom. And I was like, okay. I'm like, because I just saw someone in the house. And she's like, a little girl? I'm like, yeah, there's a little girl. She's like, what'd she look like? And I'm like, well, she had long, dark, it was very similar to, say, like The Ring, right? Long, dark, straight hair. She had this, but she had like a Little House on the Prairie nightgown with the frillies and like a couple little buttons at the top. And it was like a white, but it looked kind of like grungy, like it was dirty.
Yeah.
But what's weird is, like, as I'm explaining it, I'm like, well, what's weird is because she's like, well, did you see her face? And I'm like, well, now that you mentioned, I'm like, I couldn't see much. It was kind of covered, but she looked up at me at one point and she had no eyes. It was literally like similar to the other thing. When she looked at me, where her eyes were just black, and not like the eyeball was black. I mean, empty, like somebody had ice cream scooped out her eye socket and pitched it. And she took off running towards our bedrooms. So guess where I had to go after that? Freaking bedroom, because I had to go to bed, right?
Huh.
Well, come to find out, I saw it. My mom knew exactly what I was talking about because she had seen it. My aunt had seen it, again, with the whole weird thing that people in the family. Mm-hmm. A lady who stayed with us had seen it. So this is a widely reported little girl in the house and like out in the yard. And that's the only time I saw her. That's it. Done. Only once.
One and done with that one? Oh my God. I wonder. Yeah. So do you have any history on that house? Do you know?
So that's the thing. My grandparents built it. They lived there. My family, nobody outside the family has lived there. There is no record of anything. I even tried to get like land records. But again, she was like Little House on the Prairie era. Mm-hmm. So that would have been well before anybody even lived there. Right?
Right.
So I was like, well, unless it was something people were traveling through, because, you're going west, maybe something happened. But back then there was no records. I mean, if she died in the middle of nowhere, I mean, what are they going to do?
Right. So you only saw her once. Did everybody else only see her once?
So my mom saw her a few times, but I think everybody else pretty much was like once or maybe twice, and that was it.
Okay. Because it kind of goes into like this theory there where, obviously it's not a theory. Well, I don't think it's a theory because I feel like, like we just found out, there's freaking you can talk to somebody on the internet and then whatever is haunting them shows up
Yeah.
here. But so we know that ghosts or whatever you want to call them can travel, and it doesn't matter how old the house is, how new the house
So
is.
you got to think.
You can
Now, my
still get
mom saw it
haunted.
the most that I know of. She's seen it the
Yeah.
most often. But she was pretty much, I mean, other than to her adult life, like sophomore, junior in high school, she was born and raised in that house.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, over 20 years, I mean, she only saw her a few times, and it was like twice in the kitchen and then once outside. And then, like, I saw her right outside the kitchen. My mom's friend saw her outside, just running. She thought she was going to hit a little girl on the road, and come to find out, the little girl disappeared when she crossed the road. She's just gone. So she was like, "Well, that was weird."
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. So, but
so your mom had incidences where had sightings of this little girl through a span of years.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
And it wasn't a repeat scenario. It wasn't like one of those residual hauntings where it's like, play, repeat. It's always something different. So she's never doing the same thing. She's just ends up being in the same room. But what gets me after that is, so I can't sleep. I've never been able to sleep. And at the time we had family and family friends living with us. So we had like 13 people in this teeny tiny house. And I mean, teeny tiny house. We were stepping all over each other. We had one bathroom and there was a lot of teenage girls in the house. Yeah. So
shit.
Yeah. One night I couldn't sleep. It was 3 a.m. and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in the shower now because then I don't have to fight anybody for the shower later. Whatever. So I get in the shower and I kept feeling like there was somebody outside the shower curtain. And so I would like move the shower curtain real fast and there's nothing there. I'm like, well, that's weird. But I felt like there was someone watching me through the shower curtain, which is really a creepy feeling.
Yeah, that is creepy.
So, but then I get out of the shower and I'm drying off and I'm, got my clothes, somewhat of something on. And now I have long hair. So I have, long hair and I was straightening it. So I had to blow dry it and then straighten it. And for anybody who doesn't realize how this fucking works, generally, if you're straightening your hair and you're a woman, you don't just like, no, you have to like, especially if your hair's long, you have to like turn your head and like look, down to try to get all of it in one swipe. And so I was doing that. I was looking down, I was straightening, and all of a sudden, again, it was like that horrible, like, ugh. The only way I could describe it is like when you've met a creeper. You probably don't understand because you're a man. But ladies out there, you know what I'm talking about. When you just know that dude's creeping on you. And it was just this nasty, gross feeling. And everything stood up again, all the hair and everything. And I was facing the mirror. And the door was in, again, very, very, very small bathroom. So the door was open and my back was actually up against the door and I was looking at the mirror. There wasn't any space. And I got to quit looking. That's my problem is I'm like, oh, this is weird. Let me look. So I glanced up, like as I had my head down, I looked up in the mirror and there was a fucking man standing behind me. And sorry.
Like solid?
Yeah. He looked, when I'm looking in the mirror, he looked solid behind me. He was like about a head taller than me, so maybe like 6 foot tall. I'm really short, so he was like a head taller than me. He had this like bowl cut, sandy brown hair. He had like suspenders with like a button up shirt, like one button on the top, like long john almost. He looked like the same era as the little girl, but a man. Same black eyes, nothing there, just gone. And he had this like solemn look on his face, like he was just like staring, like no expression. And it creeped me out because I was like, okay. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, there's a dude. So I blinked and I looked up again and he was still there. And so then I closed my eyes and I was like, he's not real. Like, he's not real. But I could feel it was like I could feel him breathing on the back of my neck. And so I turn and look, even though I know it's impossible because when I look, I'm literally like, my back is against a door. There's no way anything could be behind me. But when I looked in
Yeah.
the mirror, I could see him and I could feel him breathing on the back of my neck. And I was like, fuck this. And I just took off. I ran to my room. Still to this day,
You-
will not shower in the mornings.
So, still to this day, I won't shower in the morning. She
Nope.
said. So real quick, if you ever get into that situation again, all you got to do is karate chop them because everybody knows karate chops kill ghosts.
But he's behind me. I'd have to be like,
Well, you have to turn around and do it. You have to
but
be like,
there's,
yeah.
there's a door. There's nobody there. That's what was so weird. It's like he was in the mirror,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
behind me.
I got you.
It was
I get
very
you.
strange.
Yeah.
There was no room for anybody to even be standing behind me. Yeah. So that was
Okay. Okay. I got you. I got you. All right.
So-
That's even creepier.
Here, I'm gonna move this. That way, maybe. Sorry. There, you can see more of my stuff behind me instead of just like all down my shirt. You're welcome.
I don't mind either way.
I'm like, you're welcome, listeners. Okay, so I'll get into some of the stuff that's kind of strange in a different sense, like you were talking about earlier. So I am on baby number 9. I mean, not me personally. Thank God.
Yeah, yes.
I've been fixed, so no baby.
Yeah.
But I am on number 9 where people don't know that they're having a baby, but I will go to bed. I'll wake up and I'll have a dream that I am that person in my dream.
Yeah.
And I can see what's going on, and I know that like there's a baby, and I can tell you, is it a boy, is it a girl, whatever, and then I'll like call them. I'm like, hey, congratulations. I don't know if you wanted it or not, but you're having a baby, and it's a, whatever it is. And lo and behold, they don't even know. Like, so they take a test either like right after they talk to me or like a week or 2 later, and they find out that they're pregnant. And it's always whatever I call it as. So it's so fun. Like I said, I'm 9 for 9.
Wow. That is super interesting.
Yeah. So it got to the point to where if I call somebody, they get a little nervous because they're afraid I'm going to tell them they're having another baby. They're like, I'm not having another baby. And I'm like, oh no, you're fine. They're like, oh, okay, good. But like for a while, until people started realizing that I was getting them right all the time. I made a little money off of it.
Really?
Because I was like, I bet you $50 it's a girl. Surprise! Even if they don't find out, I'm like, I know what it is. Like, I can tell you what it is. And they're like, oh, don't tell me. I'm like, okay. It's like, I'm just telling you. Like, we had one where I went to a baby shower, and I showed up with like a pink, something pink, and everybody else showed up with like all this boy stuff because like they wanted it to be a boy and blah, blah, blah. And I show up with this pink thing, and they're like, what's that for? I'm like, your baby. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, because it's a girl. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's a girl. And lo and behold, they had to return all their crap because everything was blue.
I don't understand why it would matter, to be honest with you.
People are weird. Nowadays, just buy everything yellow. It's neutral.
Yellow and green. Yep. Yellow and green.
Well, I still feel like green's kind of a boy color, so masculine color.
Did you know that in like the 20s and 30s, yep, it was the boys were in pink blankets.
Yep.
And the girls were in blue. Or the girls were in green.
So
the girls were in green, not blue.
Yeah. I remember reading about it because I thought it was really cool. And I was like, oh, that's really strange. And because we were at like an old facility and everything was backwards. But people they call it, it's witchcraft technically. You take a wooden pencil and you sharpen the end, and you take a needle and thread and you put it in the eraser of your wooden pencil, and you hold it above a person's wrist, and it'll tell you how many kids you're going to have, if it's a boy, if it's a girl. So that's something my family has done for a lot of generations. It's just something that they did. However, I apparently have a built-in meter that no needle required. But I can't control it. But it does happen a lot. Unfortunately, with the positive side, there is a negative side, and I have on, I think 5 or 6 occasions now, I've known people were going to die right before they died. and how they died and where they died.
And that is the same way as the baby thing?
Yep. I go to bed. So one of them was a complete stranger. I have no idea who this woman was. It was literally, I went to bed, I woke up, and I was in this building with people I didn't know. In my dream, I knew them, but I didn't recognize any faces. And there was someone coming that was basically like hunting us down. So we all split up like roaches. And I ended up with this African American lady that I didn't recognize. I have no idea who she was. But we were hiding behind this like piece of equipment, and the guy found us. And what's weird was, it's like I was there with her, like we were running and doing all this, but we weren't communicating. We were just running, and I just thought she knew I was there, and I knew she was there. But when the guy shows up, it's like I wasn't even, he had no clue that I was there. He couldn't see me. He couldn't hear me. And I'm like screaming, trying to get help for this girl. And he's just stabbing her to death. And I'm watching the whole thing. And I'm trying to get somebody's attention to help her, but nobody's coming. And then it gets done and he just walks away. And I couldn't get a good look. It was literally, stereotypical, dark jeans, dark hoodie, hood was up, tennis shoes. And then he walked away. So I couldn't like ID anybody. And I was like, well, it was like so real. Like I could hear and see it. Everything was just very, very vivid. And the next day, I was going to get something out of the refrigerator and the TV was on and they had my mom had the news on, and I looked over and it was the same woman that was in my dream, and they were investigating her murder because they found their body that morning. And I'm like, and she was stabbed to death. So I was like, well, that was weird. But I've had one where I woke up and I was in another person's, hi kitty, another person's body. And I was like, kind of like, like, this is weird. I'm like, I was in a man's body, which was obviously strange for me. And then I realized, I'm like, wait, I think I know who I am. I was my grandpa, which is really weird because I hadn't seen him for a while. And he was in a hospital an hour away from me. And sorry about my cat. He's trying to get inside. But I was there, and then all of a sudden it was like I couldn't breathe. It just felt like somebody was sitting on me, and I couldn't get any air. And all of a sudden everything started like fading out around me, and then eventually everything went black. And when it went black, I jumped up and woke up and couldn't breathe. I was catching my breath. Do you mind, cat? Sorry. Anyway, so. And as soon as I woke up, the phone rang, and it was the hospital, and they were calling to tell my mom that my grandpa just passed away. And I was like, and as soon as she came around the corner, I'm like, he's dead, isn't he? She's like, how did you know that? And I was just like, I just knew. I'm like, I was there. I was like, I don't know how to explain it. But so far, the longest anyone's ever lasted is I had one that was like 4 or 5 days. Usually it's like 24 to 36 hours and you're toast.
Wow.
Yeah. But I've had people I've met, so like the stranger, two of my grandfathers, my husband's stepdad, who I've never actually met before, I just knew his name, but I knew where he was going to die and that it was going to be soon. And he was telling me that because he doesn't believe in any of this crap. And he's like, oh, you're full of it, whatever. He's like, he's been in a nursing home for years. He's not going to, there's no way he's going to die in mom's house because he's been in a nursing home. The next day we got a call. They moved him to hospice, moved the bed into her house, and he died the next day. I was like, do you believe me yet? Kitty, you can't get out that way.
Wow.
Move it, Sumo.
And yeah. So do me a favor. If you ever have this dream of me, immediately call me when you wake up.
Yeah, well, the weird thing is I don't understand because I don't have, like I said, I don't have any control over. Get off the desk. It's just I never know who, what, when, where, because I mean, you can't really judge. I mean, it's not like I'm like summoning people or anything.
Right.
But I just know, and so I'll be like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Am I crazy? Like, how does this keep happening? Because I was like, that's awfully ironic. I mean, if it happens once or twice, but once you get like 6, 7 times, you're like, maybe there's something to this and I need to pay attention to it. So I struggle with that part of it because I'm like, I don't know. It's just really weird.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe telling would be really a good thing, because then you're kind of messing with fate and karma and shit like that.
But my thing is well, all the ones that I've known, none of them were accidents. So there's no way they could alter their reality. You know what I mean?
Right.
It
Well,
was,
other than that one lady, but you didn't know her.
but that's the thing is, it still wasn't an accident. Someone went and found her and axed her ass.
Yeah, true.
And now, when she was murdered, she wasn't murdered in the area that I was dreaming about. It was the exact same method, and everything was the same except the location. And I don't know if it was, I don't know what was with that, but that's the thing is, like, it doesn't matter. So it's almost like, so fun fact, I have this recurring dream where I am in an auditorium and I go down maybe a quarter of the way past, like, behind the stage to watch. And the stage is up here. So it's not like a flat. I mean, it's up top. There's actually a stage. And there's music playing. These people come out and we're packed in here. Music starts playing. And then the song that it's like I never recognize it. What the hell are you doing, cat? She's knocking over my dividers. But it's like, cat. I don't recognize it unless it's in my dream. And then I'm like, I know this song. And right about at the same time, every single time, the doors fly open in the back. So it's dark everywhere. And it's got those, push button doors, that open. I don't know what they're called, but you know what I mean. And these doors swing open, and this person, again, it's because, you're just seeing a silhouette from all the light in the back, and it's kind of like blinding. And this person comes in, and all of a sudden I'm in an active shooter situation, and he's just gunning people down. And every time I have the dream, the first time I had it, I lasted like 2 seconds. I was just gunned down immediately because I didn't know what was happening. Then I had it again, and I was coherent enough to be like, I know where I am. I've seen this before. I've heard this song. I know. So I was telling people, like, something's going to happen. We've got to get out. We've got to get out. And we didn't make it very far. And then we made it a little farther and a little farther. I'd be like, okay, let's go left. Let's go right. So I'm trying all these different ways, and I never make it out safely. I always die. Always. And it's always the same active shooter. So now I'm scared to death because, so I went to CryptidCon, and I'm never in a situation where there's an auditorium with speakers until I was at CryptidCon. And for the first day, I refused to even go back there. I was too afraid to even look. And I was like, some of the speakers I wanted to go see, but I was like, I have to see the place first. If it looks anything like what I've seen, I will not go in there. I'm like, I will not do it. But I went in and it looked nothing like this thing. So I was like, okay, we're fine. It's good. It's not the place. But now when I go places, I try to actively be aware of where I am, because it's like, I'm like, when I'm in that spot, I'm like, it's going to happen. I need to know what to do when that happens. Yeah. It's really scary.
That's
and it gives me a lot of anxiety because the conferences and conventions are the only time that I go somewhere like that.
Yeah.
So
when did those dreams start?
Maybe a few years ago or a couple years ago.
Before you started your podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Oh,
so
that's
like,
pretty interesting. Weird. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You never go anywhere that has an auditorium, and then, you start having these dreams. And you're like, oh, that's never going to happen to me because I never go anywhere. And then you start your podcast, and now you go to these events.
Exactly. Well, what's weird is it's like, if I really think about how everything was and where it was sitting, it reminded me of a place I've been before once.
Okay.
But not exactly. It didn't look exactly the way, like, it was smaller than what I remembered. But I remember my cousin, I don't know, this is so weird. My cousin took me to a Christian rock concert. Yeah, like forever ago in Indianapolis. And it looked very similar. Now but we sat on the opposite, like the mirrored side of where I was sitting in my dream. In my dream, I'm sitting on the other side, like the right-hand side, not the left-hand side. But it was almost the same amount back. And it's just like, it's similar, but it's not exactly. Will you quit crying, you big bitch? He's crying because he wants in the house. He's at the door crying.
Just give him the big elbow,
Yeah.
Bang.
Getting stuck with stunner.
Yeah, that's that's interesting. I'm glad that that shit doesn't happen to me because my anxiety would be through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to hang out with 3 siblings in a bar?
3 siblings that like to tell true crime and paranormal stories and are also hilarious.
I'm Deshay, the oldest sibling.
I'm Sage, the middle sibling.
And I'm Storm, the youngest sibling.
So come hang out with us every Monday for a new episode of 3 Siblings Walk Into a Bar, available on wherever you listen to your podcast.
And like I said, I was too afraid to even look. I was like, I was starting to try to talk people into be like, can you go take pictures of it and send it to me? Like, because I don't want to go back there. I was afraid to even step foot back there. And the people I went back there, like, oh, do you have a tag? I was like, honestly, I'm not coming in. I'm just looking. And they're like, what? I was like, it's hard to explain. I was like, I'm just looking. And they're like, okay. And I was like, how do you explain to people? But what's crazy is I've always been told that I'm nuts, right? People, they don't believe in anything. I'm just crazy. And I'm like, but how crazy am I if it keeps happening? And it's accurate. I was like, if it was like, oh, I tell somebody this and it never happens, I'm like, that's one thing. I said, but it always happens. Always. And when I was at Crypticon, I actually told somebody, I was like, oh, hey, have you been in the thing? What's it look like? Blah, blah. And I explained to them why I was afraid to go in. And the people were like, okay, we're going to wait here. You go look and you come back and let us know. Cause they go, they told me like, if you recognize it, we're not going in. And I was like, okay. And I went back and I was like, nope. I'm like, you guys are good. We're good. They're like, okay, so it's not. I'm like, nope, not even close. I'm like, not the same chairs, not the same stage. I was like, everything is different. It's fine. They're like, okay, good. Then we're going to go. And it was just really weird to me that I've always been told, that I'm nuts and people don't believe anything. But then there's people out there that are like, no, like we know you're telling the truth and we know that stuff happens. So we are going to listen. So it's always really weird to see the different people out there.
There's a lot of different people out there. That's for sure. That is for sure.
But yeah, if I call you and say, turn left instead of right, turn left. I've done that a lot for people too.
I'd appreciate that. I'm
hoping for the lottery because, I used to make jokes that I said, if anybody's psychic, why are they not rich? And I have an answer. You want to know the answer?
Because you get bullshit premonitions? I mean, I don't know.
No. To me, there's a better answer than that.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
You don't always control what you can see. Like for me, I can see stuff. But I'm clearly not rich. However, it'd be nice if it would happen. Every now and then you get lucky. So one day I was driving through town and something just told me, I was like, you need to stop right here at this place and you need to buy a lottery ticket. Scratch off ticket. Just a scratch off ticket. It's like $20. And I was like, and I passed 6 other places to buy the exact same lottery ticket. And I was like, something's telling me I have to stop in here right now. And I'm like, okay. So I pull in and I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to buy a scratch off. So I walk in, I'm like, that's the one. I'm like, all right, I need that ticket. I went home and I spent $20 and won $2,000.
Son, cheese and rice.
Now that's the only time it's happened. Every now and then I get like, I'm like, I need to stop and get something. And I might spend like $60 and I make like 150. So it's a little bit, but that's the only time it's been like anything substantial. And I think what it is you can't force it. I feel like anybody who's summoning a person or a thing, I feel like you can't do that. Like it's not natural for that to happen. So if you do summon someone or something, I think whatever shows up, odds are it's something else masquerading as whatever you're wanting to see. Yes. But if it's something that it wants to talk to you and it wants to get the message out, it's like I tell people, I'm like, if it wants to be heard, it's good. I'm going to hear it. I'm like, I can't control it. I've been in the bathroom and been like someone talking and I'm like, hello? Like, who the hell's talking to me? Or, I'll be at work and I'll hear somebody say something and I'm like, I turn around and there's nobody. It's just me. We're in the car. And I'm like, if they want you to see them, if they want you to hear them and you're able to do so, they will make sure it happens. And I feel like also, if there is a message that somebody needs to get, you shouldn't force it because if they want you to know something, they will tell you at the right time. At the right time.
Makes sense.
There's been times where, I've wanted, I used to beg for something, anything, and just silence, just dead silence. I didn't hear anything. I didn't get anything. And then one day I pushed it too far and I kind of sort of died a little.
I think you told me this story,
yes.
but please tell me
and
again.
Okay, so I'll just go through the whole thing. So
Okay.
Let's see if I can try to make this a little less lengthy for you. All right, so baby one, his name is David. He likes to follow me around. You'll see him here periodically. He didn't make it. So, and when I say he didn't make it, it wasn't just like, oops, which I'm definitely by any means not saying that this is like taking anything off it. I'm just saying there is a difference between you lost the kid and you either didn't know that you were pregnant or it just happens. This was, the baby stuck itself in the tube, then continued to grow. I was 18 in high school, and it exploded. Like literally the whole thing, the whole tube just went and exploded inside of me. Which then led to my body was then hemorrhaging internally. And when I called on a Friday afternoon when it happened, the doctor said it was all in my head. I was just young. It was my first pregnancy. Pain was normal. And they scheduled a follow-up on Monday afternoon. So I was home. I could barely move. I couldn't eat. All I did was sleep. By the time Monday rolled around and they carried me to the car because I couldn't get enough energy to get up and walk hardly, they took me into the doctor's office and my skin was like gray. I literally looked like a walking corpse. And I couldn't focus. I was weak. I could barely walk. Just nothing. I didn't want food. I just was miserable. And they took me into the room. They did an ultrasound. And when they were looking at the ultrasound, they hit this button. And when they hit the button on the ultrasound, the entire screen lit up like the 4th of July. The lady literally just dropped what she was doing and ran out of the door, just left us in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we're just sitting there like, what's happening? I still don't know. As far as I'm concerned, they were assuring me that I was pregnant. Everything was fine. That's what I got. The lady just takes off running. And I'm like, well, that surely isn't good. So then they bring the doctor in. By the time the lady left and came back less than 5 minutes later, they had already talked to the hospital. There was somebody that was getting sewn up on the operating room who they were rushing to get out to make room for me. And they told me, they're like, okay, here's the deal. One, they're like, when did this happen? I'm like, Friday around like lunchtime. They're like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, why do you go to the hospital? I'm like, I called you. You told me not to come in until Monday. You said everything was fine. And it was just in my head. And they're like, no, you have been bleeding since lunchtime on Friday. It is now 4 in the afternoon on Monday. That's 4 days. And somehow you're only supposed to survive 72 hours before you bleed to death. So they're like, we don't know how you're even sitting here. And they told my mom, they're like, you have to get her to the hospital. They're like, don't even check in. You just go straight to the operating area, nowhere else. And mom was like, well, do you want to take an ambulance? They're like, she can't be in an ambulance. And my mom's trying to figure out why. And they explained to me, we can take an ambulance because they're bouncy and they're too rough and they're not smooth. They told my mom, get her there as fast as possible. Do not slam on your brakes. Do not turn fast. Do not hit anything. Do not go over a curb. Do not brake suddenly. They're like, any sudden movement, they're like, she will bleed out before she gets to the hospital. And we were only 5 minutes from the hospital. So, long story short, what happened was tube exploded. The baby, I guess, changed its mind after trying to kill me, wedged itself in the hole, and that was the only reason that I survived. So then we get to the hospital. I refused to sign the paperwork because I didn't want them to take the baby out. they stuck something in my IV. I don't remember signing papers, but apparently I did. They took the baby, everything out, and I woke up. And then I also quit breathing repeatedly and flatlined. So that was baby number 1. Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I knew that the baby didn't make it, but this whole entire story I didn't know.
18.
Oh,
I was a child, basically. Then, after all of this happens, 2 or 3 months later, Dad decides that he's going to stop on the side of the road, tell me that he can't do it anymore because every time he looks at me, he sees me and reminds him of me losing the baby. So then he just ditches me. Then, oh no, there's a reason I'm working up to this. So there's a lot of extra information here, but it's going to make sense momentarily. Then, sorry, I just had like a really bad feeling. Anyway, okay, fast forward. It's not even been a whole year. I have a one-night stand with a dude, ironically in a cemetery.
What the fuck?
Okay, it sounds weird, but his job was a grave digger. He was a grave digger. So it's not as awkward as it seems at first. But anyway, joke's on me. I then found out that I was pregnant. And I go to the doctor, and in the same appointment, the doctor tells me, hey, you pretty much have twins, but they're not in the right spot, so you're going to lose them. So they then had to send me to the cancer ward. They had to give me shots that they give cancer patients to break up tumors. And then they sent me home and said, it'll take care of it on its own. So I then had to come back every 48 hours to get blood drawn. And they called me to tell me how less pregnant I was. Every 2 days. Then they called me to tell me I officially was not pregnant with my twins on the due date of my first one. So, I'm now 3 babies in the hole on the due date. Both the dads bail on me. As soon as the other one found out, one, that there's a baby, let alone there's 2 babies, he was gone. I still to this day have yet to see him or hear from him again. Just poof, gone. Now, I was in a bad spot. I was 19 years old, Kevin. 19 when all this is happening. I was kicked out of my house. I was a full-time college student, paying my way through college, working full-time. It was a disaster. It was a total disaster, total train wreck. Well, I had a roommate who was over the age of 21 and really liked to drink. And I gathered every type of medication that I could find and took it all and drank until I physically could not drink anymore. Well, he was at work. So, I'm pretty sure I died at one point because, again, I laid down, passed out. I'm not even going to pretend that I was sleeping. I passed out. I was gone. And I woke up in the middle of this huge field. I was in this huge field, and it was gorgeous. And I know it sounds really funny, but think Teletubbies pretty field, like fake, right? The green, the grass was the most green I have ever seen anything in my whole life. It was not super short, but not like tall grass. It was all perfectly even. And you could just see for just miles. All it was just green grass for miles. And the same thing with the sky. The sky was this crazy, vibrant, like baby blue. What's weird is there were no clouds at all. Nothing. Just straight blue. There was no sun. You couldn't see the sun, but everything was like it was a really sunny day outside, but you didn't have to squint. It was really weird. But it was just very light, and the skies were perfectly blue. And I looked down, and I was wearing this white shirt. It was like a fluffy, like sleeved white shirt. And I remember looking around, and I was like, where am I? Like, I couldn't figure out. I was like, this is weird. And when I was looking at my shirt, it wasn't just white, but it was almost like it was so white that it almost glowed. Like it had some kind of like, almost like, I don't know if you'd call it like an aura, but I don't know if you've ever seen it where you make something so white that the outside kind of seems like it's illuminating. I don't know.
Like a hue.
Yes. So it's kind of like that. And then I see this tree. There's one tree off like a little bit of ways, and it's not really far because thank God, because I didn't like walking, but God was good to me, I guess. And the tree's right there, and I heard voices, and it was weird because I didn't recognize the voices, but something in me knew. I'm like, I know these. Whoever's talking, I know them. So I went to go check it out. And I walk over, and there is an older boy who's about the same age as my son, who's 12. And I'm looking at him, and something about him is so familiar. I mean, he looks just like the kid's dad. I mean, just to a T. And then there was a smaller couple. There was a boy and a girl that were smaller, which made sense because the twins, when they said I had twins, probably they were fraternal. They weren't identical. They were two eggs. So very much made sense. And the boys were wearing these white shirts and I don't even remember what pants. All I remember was the really bright white shirts. And the girl had on this white dress. And the boy, the smaller boy, looked a lot like the twins' dad. And the girl looked kind of like me, but kind of like him. It was like a weird mix. She had this curly red hair and all these little freckles. And oh, she was so cute. She was so cute. And anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, do I know you? And they're like, well, of course you do, Mommy. You know us. And they just like start talking to me like they've known me forever. And they're like, why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, I know you? Like at first, and then it clicks that I know who these kids are. And I'm like, oh my, so then I start, crying because I'm a mess. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I can't, like, where are we? And they're like, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, where are we? Like, what's going on? And they're like, it doesn't matter. They're like, but you're not supposed to be here yet. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, and I'm apologizing because I feel like it's my fault, right? I mean, even though there was absolutely nothing I could have done to do anything else, I still felt like it was my fault because that's just how I am. And they kept telling me, they're like, Mommy, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. They're like, you didn't do anything wrong. We're not mad at you. And they're like, we're taken care of. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we're taken care of. It's okay. And they kept saying he was taking care of us. I don't know who he is, but they're like, he's taking care of us. And I'm like, what do you mean he? And they're like, it doesn't matter. Just know we're okay. We're okay. We're not mad. It's not your fault. Please don't be sad, but you have to leave. And I'm like, I don't want to leave. I'm like, no. I was like, I'm going to stay here with you guys. They're like, but Mommy, you can't. You have to leave. They're like, you don't belong here yet. And I'm like, what? And they're like, you have to go. They're like, but don't worry. They said, we'll be here when you get back. We will wait for you. And we're taken care of. It's okay. They're like, you can go. And so then I'm a freaking mess. And it was just so sweet because they're like, it's okay. Don't worry. He's taking care of us. Everything's good. But you've got to go. And they came up and I got to give them all a big hug. I had a whole big hug like all these little kids. And it was so sweet. And I didn't want, but it was like, I was hugging them. Like as I was hugging them, it was like everything started to just fade. Like it all just kind of dissipated, which was horrible feeling. But the next thing I know, it's my roommate. So I go from that to my roommate standing on top of me, just shaking me and screaming at me. And I was trying to figure out, because I'm totally disoriented at that point. And what had happened was he came home from work early, which he wasn't expecting. And he found me fully dressed on the bed in a pool of my own vomit, not breathing, and like bottle still in my hand. And he was in the military. So he kind of, turned me, he did whatever, all the crap that he needed to do to get me to get everything else. So I didn't choke on my own vomit. And he got me back to coherent. And yeah. So that was which is really interesting to me because when I died in the hospital, during surgery, that was not at all. When I died at the hospital, it was scary. I mean, it was cold. It was dark, everything. So if you have not seen Stranger Things, go watch it. There is a time where this girl named Elle, or 11, she goes into her mind palace, I guess you could call it, and she's walking around the space where she's walking. Everything's black, and she's walking, and it's like her feet are in water, but there's nothing around her. That is where I was. And it was cold and empty, and you could just tell that there was nothing there. That was my first one. So I was not really looking forward to that again. Thankfully, the second one was a little more friendly. There were people there. Maybe I did something different to change the outcome. Or maybe one of the things I was like, maybe there's a building block. If you go too soon, you don't belong there. It's like I got a sneak peek into, say, the construction site of what my version of paradise would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe it just wasn't ready yet. And I was just stumbled into it by mistake. Kind of like that elevator game.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to point out though really fast, sorry, I know it's like a long one, but what's crazy is that first boy that I had has the same dad as my breathing child. And even when I got ultrasounds done of this kid, I knew his face. We had 3D ultrasounds done, and I'm like, I know him. I have seen him before. And ever since I've had him, as he's growing and growing, and especially now because he's at the age where the other one was when I saw him in my dream, like 3 years before he was born, they're almost identical. I mean, those two boys are almost identical to the point where, newsflash, I was recording with someone who knows my kid, and they were looking down, doing their thing or whatever, and they looked up, and I was sitting across from them, and I mean, she went white as a ghost and just stared. It was staring over me, which scared the crap out of me because I didn't know anything was there. And she was like, "Did you say your kid was home?" And I'm like, "No, he's at a friend's house. Like, he's like an hour away from here." She was like, "Because she goes, I saw him. He was standing behind you." So he was behind me and was just looking over my shoulder, just kind of like curious as to what was happening. And she was like, she's known my kid since he was born. And she's like, "I thought that was your kid." And I said, "Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because my first one that is here in spirit, looks almost exactly." I mean, I look at my kid and sometimes I'm like, this is really weird. It's almost like he got sent back for like a recycle because it is so much like him. It's really creepy. And even she was confused because she was like, "I swear I see your kid." And I'm like, "He's not here." And then she looked up again and he was gone. She was like, "That's so weird." Yeah. So they hang out a lot. I got kids that float around.
Now, does your son ever see them as well?
So he's not seen them, but he has had some stuff where he's been uncomfortable because like he's been playing his Oculus and like somebody's tapped him on the shoulder and he thinks it's me and he turns around and takes his thing off to answer and I'm not there. Like I'm not even in the room. I'm like two rooms over. And he hears some stuff. Usually it's like walking around and stuff, but it's nothing. He's not seen an actual person. I think he's a little bit, maybe a little bit different, but not like me different. I tested him to see. I know that sounds really weird, but for anybody out there who has some of the stuff, you'll know what I'm talking about because we emit a weird energy that you can actually feel from other people. Like other people can tell if I put my hands, I don't have to touch you, but if I can put my hands close, you can feel, it's almost like a pulse off of me that you can feel without touching me.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that. He could tell that I have it, but he doesn't emit that same thing.
Oh my goodness
He has
gracious.
some Hat Man.
He has. Oh, you did
Yep.
tell me that. You told me that. Well, first of all, I just want to say that fucking what you went through is terrible, and I'm glad that you're still here. And I want you to know that. I appreciate you. I'm so happy to have gotten to know you and everything. So, I I think
That's
that
not.
I could call you a friend at this point.
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure. And that's like I tell people
but your
is
friggin' your story made me cry, man. That
yeah.
that whole
I
thing.
I struggle to not. I've noticed my story makes a lot of people cry, but I think maybe I've just cried enough that maybe I'm just I do have to hold it back sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do like to advocate to people also because I understand that it's a very hard process and you can and I'm not dismissing anybody else's loss at all. That's not my intention. But I've lost a lot of people. I've lost grandparents. I've lost I mean my cousin committed suicide when I was in high school and I went to his funeral and he was only a year older than me. So it really kind of, and I was struggling at the time. It just really hit home. My uncle's committed suicide recently. But then I've lost some to cancer. I've lost some to other things. So I've lost, but there's nothing can come close to losing a kid. And to me personally, I understand that some people, they lose their kids. Maybe you get to actually, you get to hold your baby, at least for a little while. And you to watch them, even if something happens and they pass away from an accident or SIDS or you get to experience that. That's time that you get with them. And it was hard for me because I never got to hold that dream I had that was so real is the only time I ever got to lay a hand on these babies. And even though it sucks, but now it's to the point where it's like, I know it happened, but it almost feels like I struggle sometimes with, was that real? Like I've convinced myself that I'm like, it's almost like a movie. It's like the trauma, sometimes trauma is to the point where you almost, instead of dealing with, it's almost like, oh, it just didn't really happen. It was a movie. It was this, it was that. Clearly it did happen. I've got, scars and stuff to prove it. But people that do struggle with that, I do want to encourage them because I know it sucks and I can tell you it will never, ever, ever not suck, but it will get better. And there are people out there that understand, even though whatever your circumstance may be, it's weird. And literally I was told 1 in a million, 1 in a million, 1 in a million. Well, guess what? I was 3 1 in a millions, fuckers. So stop saying that. Every time they tell me it's 1 in a million, it happens. And so so just know that there are other people out there. So you can, communicate and get with people and get help and talk and there's groups and all kinds of stuff. So Mental Health Awareness Day. Sorry, I always plug that in everywhere I go.
It's great. And, I love talking about mental health. So, like, I'm pretty sure I told you when I was on your show that I had tried twice as well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get any like experience, like death experience out of it or anything like that. Like I didn't go anywhere. The first time I tried, it's just it hurt and there was a lot of blood and I was like, fuck, I think I fucked up. And then the second time, I passed out, but then I woke up and my frickin' stomach felt like there was a whole bunch of shit in it because like you, I just used a bunch of pills.
Well, I wonder sometimes if there's a point you have to get to, kind of like when you think about it, if you're losing blood, you can lose a lot of blood, you can lose consciousness, but you have to lose so much before you actually, clinically die, like before your heart stops. I wonder if sometimes that factors in to any of this. If you've actually got to like cross that dip, kind of like, oh my gosh, me and movie references in the Meg, where you go so far down into the deep, and then you cross into that. Well, that or King Kong or Godzilla versus Kong, where you go so far into the earth and then it flips. I wonder if you have to go so far before you actually experience anything.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Flatliners is interesting. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
So they did do a remake in the late teens, I think. I want to say it was around 2016 maybe ish area. They made a remake. No, it's just a fictional movie.
Okay.
But it was a late 80s, early 90s movie at one time. Kiefer Sutherland was in it and stuff like that. So basically it's just a bunch of like medical students trying to see what the other side is, so they kill each other, and then they revive each other, so they
That's pretty
can.
cool, though.
They're like, it's only 3 minutes, only 3 minutes, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, what if we do 4? And then they're like, what if we do 5? And then
Yeah,
we
'cause they
never go
say-
over 7, and then like
Yeah.
this weird stuff started happening where they were being haunted and stuff like that.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it, because I think so. Most of the stuff that I experienced, like it totally ramped up after the flatline incident. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw things that it was just kind of sporadic. It wasn't a lot, but then now it's like it's way, way, way more prevalent now after that whole scenario.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's tough, and sometimes the struggle's real, and people just need to know that you're not by yourself. Because I remember, people would, and I was, I was grieving. I was hasty.
Uh-huh.
And people would be like, well, I lost a kid. I'm like, did you? You lost a kid? Did you lose it like this? I would have, and I used to tell people, which, again, I'm not dismissing anybody's loss, but I used to tell people, I would have loved to have been one of those people where you're just like, oops, I just woke up and then, oh, it's gone. Like, I would have loved to not have all of this horrible trauma attached. Like, in half an hour, I went from everything was fine to I should have been dead. My baby's going to be dead. And I was out of surgery. Okay, I was in surgery. Surgery took a while. Because what they were telling me is they had to take, it was like 20 something ounces of blood out of my stomach just to figure out where to cut me open, because they couldn't see. Literally, the entire stomach was full to the rim of blood. I was a walking blood bag.
Oh my God.
And it was really gross. And to me, it's just like, everybody has crap. And everybody, and that's one reason I do like to go and do these charity things is, people, everybody. I mean, now granted, I've gone through that is just a very small, that is literally all of that just happened to me that I told you about was not even a 12-month time frame. Like that was a blip, literally. So it was pregnant, all this crap, the twins, the dream happened the due date. So we're talking like 9-10 months after. So we're not even a full year before this happens. And that's just, like I said, that's just it. And I mean, I should probably sell my life story to a book place or something, because it's bananas. So much weird crap has happened to me. And the way I look at it is I now have this outlet, so I can reach out, and it gives me the opportunity. And yeah, apparently I'm very resilient because I'm still here somehow, but it's, you never know, because people be like, they might bring something up and they're upset. I'm like, you know what? I actually dealt with the same thing. And they're like, well, I'm like, I know it's hard to believe. I'm like, but I did. I was like, or here's this, or like sometimes they'll be like, oh, this, that. And I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you a story. This happened to me. They're like, oh, well, I don't feel so bad now. And I'm like, you're welcome. It's like, true story. It's okay. But yeah, well, I'm glad you're here. You're awfully nice, and you're good to lock at. So.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad you're here. You want to know what? I was, so your eye makeup, when you close your eyes or when you look down, it looks like there's another pair of eyes there.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's kind of weird looking.
Oh, I didn't even mean to do that. That's kind of funny.
Because it, like, you got the blue or whatever, right, on the eyelids.
Because my thing's purple.
Oh, okay.
I guess it
so, and then like right in the center, it looks like a little bit like you put a little white
brighter,
there.
Yeah. So the purple's actually like shimmery, and I think the light's reflecting off of the front more.
I gotcha.
It almost looks like butterfly wings.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Here.
It looks really cool. Good job.
Trying to flutter them real fast. Doesn't really work. Here. Never a dull moment.
No, but I'm gonna have to have you come back for a part 2 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
So, because I know there's more to get into, especially with like your investigations and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So,
we haven't even touched those, have we?
No, we haven't.
I live an exciting life, guys. For somebody who's so boring, I'm pretty exciting at the same time.
She used to be exciting, is what she means.
Yeah, adventures find me. I don't find the adventure finds me.
Well, so we're almost at 2 hours, which is phenomenal because I feel like we've touched on so much,
Mhm.
and we have so much more to talk about, and I know that we do. There's still things that I know that you've told me that we haven't got into yet. So, but because so losing my train of thought as I'm speaking, which sucks
Which
sometimes.
is funny because when you did that, something creaked behind me. I could feel almost like when the floors, unsettle or whatever, and they kind of like
Yeah.
crack. That happened as soon as you were like, I'm like, wait, did something just freeze your brain?
Anyways, so Natasha, if you don't mind, letting everybody know who you are and where they can find you one more time.
Oh, well, again, I am Natasha from Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. Everybody always confuses it and always does plural and everything. I am all over the place. So, best thing I could tell you is there's www.cryptidscreepsandconspiracy.com, and that has episodes. It's got the merch link. It's got social media. There's resources for domestic violence, mental health awareness. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there. If you just are, wandering around, I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Threads, X. Did I say Instagram already? Instagram, YouTube. God, I really am everywhere. I am pretty much everywhere. And if you go to any of those social media sites, in the bio, there's a Linktree link. And again, you click on that and everything, every place you can listen's on there. All my social media's on there, the website, the merch. It's all in one nice little pretty link. That pretty much, I think. Oh, and if you're going to be around Nashville, Indiana, the last weekend of September, I will be at Indiana Bigfoot Conference with a booth. And then I will be at CryptidCon in November in Kentucky, in Lexington. So I can't think of anywhere else, really.
So I'm probably going to be at CryptidCon this year again. And CryptidCon falls on my birthday this year, so.
Indiana Bigfoot Conference is on my birthday.
Nice.
Yay! So I'll have to buy you a drink on your birthday, or get you a present or something.
Yeah, no. Well, no. Just a drink is fine. You have to give me a present.
Well, maybe I can give you my little thingies here.
Okay, well, if you can give it to me, but then I'll give you money for it.
Well, I'm okay with that too. Oh, one more thing though. I do want to encourage anybody and everybody, if you have an experience or an encounter of any kind, if it's UFO, abduction, cryptid sighting, ghost encounter, anything just weird. Maybe you were just walking down and you're like, man, I saw this three-legged dude pumping gas at the Circle K. I mean, whatever. I would love to hear your story because I'm actually getting ready to record my very first listener story episode. So I'm going to be doing that, and you can either fill them out on the website that I gave you a second ago on the contact form, or you can send them to cryptids, creeps, and conspiracy at gmail.com. That was way too like commercial voice, wasn't it?
Singular. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I threw myself out there for a second. I'm like, wow, was that me? Usually I have like an accent. Sometimes I get possessed, but I actually record voicemails for people because I would use a phone voice and I would record their voicemails, and people thought it was the generated voicemail that people got on their phone.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but I would come up with some really good ones.
Nice.
It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fucking good time. Anyways, Natasha, I'm so happy that you came on tonight and spent some time with me. I appreciate you so much. And again, I'm so happy that you are here physically and spiritually. And that, you haven't been taken out yet. So I'm happy to know you. I'm like, I don't know what this life would be like if I didn't get to know Natasha.
Well, I appreciate it. And I do too. I tell him, like, thought it was funny because, in case you hadn't noticed, when we were on Farah's group thing, we answered pretty much every question exactly the same, and nobody else matched our answers.
Yes, I did notice, actually.
So great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. And with that being said, everybody, that is the show So please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review if you feel so inclined to do so. You can leave one on the website, wheretheweirdonесarepodcast.com. The Patreon's up if you're interested in supporting me that way. Please go check out Natasha's show. It's an amazing show. I listen to it, so I recommend you do the same. Please leave her a 5-star as well. Other than that, I think that's it. So, with that being said, remember everybody, question everything and stay weird.
Always.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.